plot holes that I couldn't even. And I think we managed to get through that movie.
So, yeah, and that's the thing. So the tarot card
that's right,
eventually goes through England, or like France, and then
Right.
England, and then to America. It's the United States of America, right? Oh, and there was like that one like there was one area in Mexico, and they all like unalive themselves.
Uh-huh.
And then that card, the deck went to. So my point is, how do people in South America they can read English?
Dude, again, it's a movie. You have to suspend your disbelief. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll suspend
so
belief.
I think
Okay.
did they finally burn the cards? Spoiler alert! If
Yeah. So if you have not watched the movie, a lot of spoilers, whatever. It's a ride.
You're right. Like
it's a ride.
It's the kind of like movie you make some THC popcorn and forget about it, you know.
But I did enjoy the one thing that I enjoyed was about the myths, and that is you read a myth and then how that translates into like real life. Okay. So from someone of a scholar and person who enjoys reading scripture and whatnot, from in the Tanakh, it talks about, and the Savior will come out of Israel. I'm sorry, out of Egypt. Well, what does that look like? And it was this very, very messy story of Jesus, the person, his parents, Mary and Joseph, going to Egypt. Very, very messy. But the actual prophecy is like 3 sentences, and it seems very neat and tidy. But going from point A to point B was not neat and tidy, and very messy. And that's one thing I did enjoy about the movie Tarot, in terms of she would read the this is what your future is going to look like the lady in the bridge. Remember,
right.
Like you're going to cross a bridge,
right?
And you're going to be like lifted up.
Oh no, it was like the hangman.
It was a hanging man, but it was like you're going to be lifted up, or you're going to ascend. That's what it was. You're going to ascend. Remember, and they were crossing a bridge, and they're going to hit. It was like you're going to cross a bridge. You're going to hit a like a barricade or like a blockade. Something's going to stop you, and then you're going to ascend. And that's exactly what happened, but in a very violent way.
Right.
They crossed the bridge, they hit the blockade, and then
it was
this news came out of nowhere.
Didn't they end up like burning the deck at the
end? Yeah. So at the end, so here's the kicker. So this entire time, which you alluded to earlier, was that it was connected to the person's birth. So when the protagonist.
Are we giving up on YouTube?
Nope, we're good. We're just using regular audio.
Okay.
Yeah, so when the protagonist was like, "Oh, you're born, October. You're born. You're a Taurus.
Right.
When you're born Taurus, what year is that?
That's May.
May. Okay. So in May or whatever, right? So to reverse the curse, she had to read the. I'm going to call her a witch, but whatever.
Read the cards in reverse.
She had to read her tarot.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. How did she know when she was born?
Oh.
Right? So the evil spirit had to reverse the cards, had to have. I know Aaron's laughing in the background, right? Yeah, I'd be laughing too. And the main character who knows all about the tarot cards and everything, it was all around the, what do you call that? The horoscope?
Yeah.
And the horoscope's based around like when you're born.
Right. It was nonsensical. Like you can incorporate your astrology. Like they were trying to combine astrology and tarot with this cloth where it was like this it's basically this astrological wheel
with the pentagram. Was there a pentagram too?
I don't think so.
Or no, not the pentagram. The Wiccan.
The wheel of the year. What are you talking about? Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, it was the constellations, and so I think in the movie she was like allegedly starting in whatever birth month, maybe, and then going around and putting a card in each house on the astrological wheel, and then there was the 13th card to represent the final outcome.
And the 13th was like how they were going to die. Basically.
Yeah, it was how they were going to die. And so if anybody who's watching has seen the movie Tarot, has thoughts that they want to share about it, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I really had a hard time
with the subway. Remember the subway scene?
Oh my god! And I
like all of a sudden he like falls into like this the subway that didn't even exist. Like I don't even know.
I don't know. So
sucked.
So if anybody is watching that has any comments they'd like to share about tarot, please drop them in the comments below so we can talk about it. I'm just kind of basically going to wrap that portion up and go on to the next movie. Unless somebody has something they want to say about it. I'm just going to end that with I just thought tarot was ridiculous. I didn't want to watch it. I finally did. It didn't enrich my life at all. If you see a deck of cards in a shelf in a room that says don't enter, I mean, so obviously shenanigans will ensue. You can hire me to get rid of the curse or the demon if you want.
But there will be a demon.
But there will be a demon.
Beelzebub will show up. So, but that's...
Yeah. Where's that on here? Evil Eye?
Yep.
I can hear that, but I don't think people
want to. So if I'm going to take anything out of this movie as a Christian, right?
Right.
Don't use the tarot cards owned by someone else.
Yeah, that's the basic premise.
That's the rule.
That I can even get into a story about that, about my dad.
Do it.
Yeah. But I'm gonna get into that in just a second, but I want to address Alicia. Hey Alicia over on Facebook. She asked, how do you know what tarot deck is right for you? And that's a really good question. I say go with what resonates with you for the artwork. A lot of people start with the Rider-Waite deck because that's what got popular. And there's
deck?
Rider-Waite, the Rider-Waite deck. It's kind of like the gold standard, so to speak. Thank you. Of decks. It's the one that people generally start out with.
One?
Yeah, it's all yellow. There's yellow everywhere in it.
Yellow and white, it's old school.
When people ask me whether or not they should start with the Rider-Waite, I'm like, well, on the one hand, there's a lot of websites that are going to give you information about the symbolism in that deck. So if you're new when it comes to learning about symbols and building those associations in your mind for the purpose of divination, the Rider-Waite can be a great deck to start out with because there's a lot of resources to learn about those symbols. However, a lot of people find they grow out of that deck very fast because they get bored with the art. So I recommend starting with a deck where you really like the artwork and then taking the time to learn the symbolism of that, because that will only help you with other decks you might pick up later on. Now, I have a little bit of a collection of decks. Modest, not huge, but it will be a library probably one day because I love art and I love having different decks to work with, because every different kind of art is going to give you a different vibe as far as what kind of energy is going to come through the cards. And so I have decks that I work with specifically for just contacting the ancestors. That deck for me is the Santa Muerta deck. I have a deck that's for general use. You're welcome, Alicia. I have a deck that's for general use. That's the golden
General use deck.
It's my favorite one because it's all gold. It's all gilded. It's all and it's an Art Nouveau style deck. And it's my absolute favorite. I love it. It's to me, it's the easiest one to work with. But I also have other decks. Like I have a deck that I dedicated specifically to a star entity. So I only would use that deck when I'm working or wanting to talk to them.
I gotta have my
You gotta have your fun. No, do it. Please do. I have decks that I use specifically to look in whether or not someone is hexed or cursed or has demonic activity around them. And in fact, I did bring a deck of cards to get into tonight, and I can't believe it's almost 10 already. Like, when did we start? Did we start super late?
Oh, we started
We kind of
late.
messed around, but it was just after 9.
That's what I thought.
9:05.
So I'm like, we don't even need to go into the second movie. We could just go into the cards that I brought since we're talking about cards.
Why are you doing that?
Bring
Hello.
up the props.
Good Lord. Mem.
I think it says Meme G.
Where's the where's the
Which one? Oh.
It says bikini.
Oh, bikini.
Yeah.
so hello. Meme G3750. And then we have Nazir. Hello Nazir. Hello. What as we take a little bit of break, what is your favorite Halloween candy? You can write that down and we'll read it to you. I personally like the ones in the orange wrapper. The orange wrapper with beef. Peanut butter and chocolate. Yeah. So what is your favorite?
I would say it's Snickers, Almond Joy, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Do they even make Almond Joys anymore?
They
Coconut.
Coconut and almonds. They do. It's one of my favorites.
Wow.
It's not to love.
Aaron, what's your favorite?
I like the 1,000 gram.
Payday.
No. It's
Not
like
1,000 payday?
No, it's like, oh, I think
1,000 grams.
oh yeah, 100 grand.
It's just calling a bunch of money. I don't know.
You're killing billionaires and getting money from chocolate.
Chocolate.
Die billionaires? It's an inside joke.
We don't need to look into it too much.
Alicia says 100 grand.
Yeah,
100 grand, that's it.
That one's delicious. It's like crispy.
It's so delicious.
That's funny.
I mean, if it's got chocolate, caramel, nuts, pretzels, coconut, almonds, caramel, peanut butter.
What about Milky Way, though?
I don't like Milky Way. I'm not a fan.
Nougat?
The nougat, I never got into nougat.
Can suck it.
Nougat
Nougat can suck it.
Alicia says, I love Almond Joy. I do too, girl. I do too.
I don't think I've met anybody who actually said they like Almond Joy. I've met two now. Two.
Minnesota. There's little candy history here.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, there's a fella that invented a candy bar called like the 7-Up bar or something.
The
7-Up.
7-Up bar.
Yeah, like it was like
bar.
7 different flavors of candy bar in one candy bar.
What?
And he kept trying to keep it going, and it died.
Where's the wah wah? What is the wah wah sound?
What? That's so funny. We have. So, what is your favorite Halloween candy?
Sour Patch. Oh my god, I love Sour Patch.
Sour Patch is good.
That's so good. Like, it's a hard talk because sometimes it's like, sometimes you just want the citrus, sometimes you want the chocolate,
sugar. You want all the flavors.
All the flavors.
Now, let me ask you this: are not the houses? Remember when you were a kid and you went to homes and they give you like the big chocolate bars, like the big bars? That's what I'm talking about. I used to where I grew up. I did not grow up in an area where someone was trying to make 7-Up candy bars, Aaron.
I'm trying to find the name of that thing. It can't be 7-Up, right?
And we there was this guy. He was called the quest master, and he would ask you a question like a riddle. And if you got it right, you would get a big chocolate bar. And we're not talking about like at the time, it was the big share candy bars, like the big block candy bars. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. He would have been one of those people that would have been like, do you think the tarot cards would have been in English back in 1500s?
No.
Young man?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Well, it seems we're on a little bit of an intermission here. Tonight we are talking about tarot, specifically the movie, but as a tarot reader, I'm talking about what tarot... Oh, men knew 7 Up.
It really was called 7 Up. 7 Up.
So on our little intermission here, I am Reverend Briana. I'm an interfaith minister, with a priest, and Reiki master. I specialize in healing rituals, spirit banishing, mediumship work. I've been a tarot reader for over 30 years, and I have services available on animalpraxis.com. Or you can support the channel and the video content by visiting patreon.com/witchpriest. You can have there's a one-time donation. There's levels of membership that you get all kinds of perks. Definitely go check that out. Behind the scenes on Patreon. I am working on building 2 different courses right now. One is on psychic self-defense, and the other one is on interfaith exorcism. And so that library is building. Anyone who is a member on Patreon has access to the videos, as well as access to live chats, services, all kinds of things. So definitely go check that out. Patreon.com/witchpriest.
My Polish grandmother gave away candied or caramel apples, sometimes popcorn, and sometimes the big candy bars. When I hear anything candy apples, I think of this.
Can you hear it?
Probably not.
Oh, it's
but you know what I mean, like the whole that. I'm not saying. I'm sure your lovely Polish grandmother was probably a very sweet lady, but I think of like Hansel and Gretel. You know, like get in the oven. You know what I mean? Like climb in the oven. It's nice and warm. That's when I think of candy apple.
Yeah.
That and like a Corvette from like the 50s.
Oh, right. Candy apple red.
But
for sure.
You know, like that, just that old witch kind of with the nose and all that stuff. So we talked about the Tarot Bull movie, the Tarot, right?
Terrible movie.
And then you have a deck of tarot.
I did. I brought, because I was like, well, since it's spooky season and we're talking about demons and demonic activity.
What's up, AP?
And we were talking earlier about whether or not we'd be sharing some stories tonight. And I thought, well, what do I want to talk about? So I decided that I would bring this deck to show you guys. This is a relatively new deck for me. And it looks at all of the demons of
it's called what? The Occult?
The Occult Tarot. Now, I was raised kind of pagan, new agey, spiritual. And so in kind of the pagan Wiccan world, people don't really believe in demons. It's like, it's thought that demons are a Christian paradigm that, we don't acknowledge. It's more like a demon is a spirit of the mind. It's not like some evil creature coming out of hell to come get you, or our understanding of demons is the metaphor of that which haunts us in our minds. So,
well, which is interesting too, because you're talking about metaphors and everything. And earlier this evening, we're talking about the simple fact that in the Tanakh, or the Jewish Bible, right? Christians would call it the Old Testament. The word for devil or demon is goat.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so here I am okay, so I'm raised pagan, and everyone's all like, oh, the goat devil thing, that's just a ripoff of Pan from Greece, yada yada yada. And then he told me about that, and I was like, it goes deeper. It's not just so.
Right.
I think
it just means goat. That's all. That's the symbology. Now, is that saying every goat that a Jewish person at the time? This is the my goat lies sightless still in the end of the night.
Every goat has its Satan.
Has its horn. By the way, that was my first album that I purchased. By the way, I'm dating myself, but
okay.
My first.
I'm dating myself too.
My first 45 was the Bangles Walk Like an Egyptian, right?
Oh yeah.
And then I went from that to it was either Open Up and Say Ah or Master of Puppets. I chose wrong, but I
don't know who those guys are.
Oh, Metallica.
Okay.
So it was Open Up and Say Ah, and I got it because it was like a cool image, right? What is that?
That's just, I think it wants to make sure that I didn't just leave my phone on and that there's a real person here. That's all.
Gotcha. I'm new to all this. Yeah. So anyway, Open Up and Say Ah. Oh, okay. That was my first album. And I listened to that album like from back like 50 times. And then 1 month later, I purchased pretty much like every Metallica album at the time. So it was like Injustice for All, Master of Puppets, and then Kill 'Em All, and then I got Ride the Lightning. Anyway, There we go. So,
but
Poison will always have a place in my heart.
Oh.
So, did you ever watch Rock of Love?
Come on, did I ever watch The Rock of Love? I mean, that dude, the only reason why he wore a bandana is because his hair would have fallen off.
Something attached. His hair was attached to
the bandana.
Yeah. So Alicia says her Polish grandmother would wear a mask on the porch and scare kids. And still on the porch holding a big bowl of candy. I'm like, that's
awesome.
Epic.
She's Christmas Krampus.
Oh my God! As a part of our caroling for Christmas, we should.
Well, and that's interesting too. How you go from Halloween and then there's a kind of a scary, not scary, but like. Yeah, it's a scary time of Christmas too.
Dude, speaking about scary and Christmas, there's Christmas trees in the Cub Foods already. I was personal shopping the other day for some client, and I'm like, why is there a giant Christmas tree? It is too soon. Too soon. Back up, Christmas. Back up. Like, they were rolling out the pumpkin spice September 1st. Oh, it's fall. It's not fall. Right. No. Fall doesn't start until September 23rd. Okay? Yeah. Back up pumpkin spice. Back up Santa Claus.
All the way to Halloween. They passed Halloween now.
Oh, my God.
PSL.
For life. PSL.
For life.
So anyway.
You're terrible.
Back to the deck. Yeah. So here I am. You know, I've known people or occultists who have studied the Goetia. And I just never really was into that because my sort of impression of demons and demonology was that it's Christian. Like, it's all based in Christian paradigms. And most of the entities that we understand as demons are demonized gods in the first place. So I was like, I don't know if I want to buy into these paradigms and read about this stuff, right? But stuff has a way.
I don't blame you either.
Stuff has a way of bringing itself into your life, right? And it will show you that it's time to look at it, and it's time to learn it, and it's time to explore it. So I got this deck, and I also got this book, Stella's Daemonum, and I have this bracelet to represent the spirit I'm about to talk about. Because the spirits will come to me. They will make themselves known to me. And I won't always hear their name. I'll usually get like an image, and then I'll have to go figure out who they are. And there was...
What's the image? What would be like an image?
So in this particular entity that I'm about to talk about, what had happened was I was doing a practice seance with my little crew in this space, and this entity appeared to me, and it was basically a man with a horse's head. And I was looking at it, and now I'm someone who's into Persephone. She is a Greek goddess, right? Her brother, she allegedly has a brother who is a magical horse. So Persephone has ties and relationships to horses. So I found it interesting that this sort of horseman came to me, and I decided to go on a hunt to figure out who he was and whether or not I could find an image that related to this entity.
Okay.
And that is how I came across Oribus. This is what the spirit looked like to me, and so I wanted to so I'm going to share with you guys what the Daemonum says about this guy, and then you can tell me what so this guy here knows how to read Hebrew, apparently, and he was looking at this deck earlier, and he's like, oh, I don't know if this is like real or some...
There's a horse button on there.
Is there? Oh, that's right. Where's the horse? I said, oh.
So, but Oribus is an answered question about the past, present, future. That's like some Back to the Future type stuff. And then gives dignities. What does that mean? Gives dignities.
So, I mean, I would assume that's sort of like in the era that this was written about or conceived of. Give dignities would be like wealth and privilege. You're somebody that's given preference within a situation, the red carpet, so to speak. Gotcha. Someone with clout and power.
Gotcha.
And what it says here
somebody that would be like sitting on the porch.
Yeah.
Giving out a big bowl of candy.
Grants the favor of friends and foes and is a faithful servant.
Gotcha.
So I found this guy, and so part of the reason I got this deck of cards was so I could start learning about these guys, because I'm like, well, now that one has come to me, it's like Pokemon. You got to collect them all. Kind of, and, going back to like,
them all.
You got to collect them all, like Pokemon. And so kind of going back to Tarot, the movie, where it's like there's this way that like spirits are portrayed, particularly malevolent spirits, particularly demonic spirits are portrayed. Again, it's like this sort of evil, malicious, malevolent, out to hurt, out to harm,
right?
Destroy the host that it's in for the sake of its own kind of sick pleasure. And people who actually are into the Galatia study these sort of entities and understand them to be, not all of them are malevolent. And demon is actually comes from daemon,
right?
Allegedly, which means hidden ones in Greek.
So, and it's really fascinating too, is because this whole concept of, I'm not saying evil doesn't exist in the world. Like, there are clearly times in history where there are people that did some really horrific and evil things. But this dichotomy of evil versus good isn't necessarily part of the Christian theology either, which is fascinating. Like, that was a heresy. Right. That, like, it's often depicted as the angel on one shoulder and the devil. Right. This dichotomy, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
That it's not like this.
So where'd the devil come from?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but like.
Sounds kind of like this conversation.
Yeah, well, and the thing is because from my faith tradition, it's already been dealt with. It's already been addressed. And that's the birth of Christ, dying and resurrecting. And then during his death, he was in hell for 3 days. And in those 3 days, it was just more like, I'm God, I can go wherever I want. So he existed in a place where he shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And then he resurrected, meaning he destroyed a death, like something that should be permanent, and then resurrected and then went to heaven. Okay. I believe that. I can understand why some people don't believe that.
But what wouldn't be there to believe? I mean, like, what happened to hell in that situation?
Yeah, hell is still there. But it's not a place that good can exist. That's the difference. So this dichotomy of
kind of like the devil didn't exist before. That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, that doesn't make sense.
So the devil, there was a time the devil didn't exist. For Jews, the devil, hell isn't like a thing. Right.
Yes, exactly. For
So at what point did the devil show up is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that would have been from a Christian understanding with somewhat of a Jewish understanding. That would have been in Genesis when Lucius or Lucifer.
Like the year 200 AD, the devil got introduced to the people of the world, you know?
Oh,
can you guys hear what Aaron is saying?
They can hear.
So the question is, when did the devil...
when did the devil... off camera.
I will say this. The devil was definitely felt from a Genesis perspective when Cain killed Abel, his son. His brother. Because you can't get any more horrific and evil than murdering someone else. And that would have been depicted with the story of Cain and Abel. There are some Christians who say there was a guy named Cain, there was a guy named Abel, Cain killed Abel. Then there's other Christians who will say this is a myth. That is, there may have been two brothers and they had a dispute and they're just called Cain and Abel.
Well, in hindsight, yes. But when did people start using that term? Hell, devil, that's where you go when you die.
Yeah, so that may have, well, it's not may, during the time of, sorry, we're derailing.
You're totally derailing, and I'm like, do I stop you? Or do I let you keep going? I'm like,
stop. We're just gonna end up in a circle.
Right.
Sometime in the past 2,000 years, right?
Well, 2,000 years would have been roughly when Christ resurrected, so it would have been before that. It was with actually he's the name's in the deck, and I can't think of the name for
Lucifer.
No, not Lucifer. The Lord of Flies. Who is the Lord? Beelzebub. Back then.
Step onto the bus.
So,
but does that bus take me back to 90 AD or does
90 AD? Oh my God.
So, like Beelzebub, again, like these are entities that started as one thing and got corrupted, demonized, had their mythos changed over time, allegedly, depending on how far back in time you go. And
we need the Doctor Who. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So back to the Stellus.
Back to this.
What does Stellus demon?
So the Stellus Daemonum is basically a compilation of like 15 other grimoires about demons.
What is a grimoire?
So a grimoire is basically a book of spells.
Gotcha.
In layman's terms, a book of spells. Generally speaking, a grimoire will have their recipes, the sigils, the prayers, how they did it, and as well as also like information on like how well it worked, what happened after they did the operation. So
it's like kind of
it's sort of like a book of
theory,
shadows. So
but like theory, and then it kind of worked or didn't work, or it works in this setting or not.
Exactly.
Diary.
Right. So this particular author went through like 15 different grimoires from like the 14th century into the 18th century, collated all of these different grimoires as far as like the demons that were present and how they were described and what positions they held, because it's believed that the demons have a huge hierarchy or hierarchical
and Asmodeus
entities.
could probably talk a lot about hierarchy.
Yeah,
he probably could.
Somewhere.
Going back to the book, what's interesting though, in Hollywood, you're reading all these like old dusty books and grimoire, and you're going to eventually die.
Right.
Which is really interesting because I'm sure Mr. David Crowhurst is just living well, probably going to Starbucks, buying coffee.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, this is an expensive. The hardcover is an expensive.
But you know
volume,
what I'm saying, though?
Like
in Hollywood, it'd be like, oh, you read some grimoire, some old dusty, like Indiana Jones type situation.
And no, this particular grimoire is modern.
But he read some old books about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like in Hollywood, like in Tarot the book, Tarot the movie, right? They find some old dusty cars and they all die except for 2 people.
Right.
This guy's still making books.
Yes.
Which is
because his shit's not cursed. And also, again, you asked earlier, is there a difference between looking at the cards and reading the cards? Right. Or it's you can read a book all day long. That doesn't mean that the information in it is going to conjure entities for you. Although I will have to say that if your imagination is strong, you will conjure entities because you're thinking about it and you're creating that resonance and attracting those entities to you. So you do have to be careful about what kinds of media you consume because your imagination can affect your reality. However, that being said,
we don't want to go into a satanic panic moral
we don't
situation
want to.
because I'm a big player
and I'm not generally about conjuring per se.
Yeah.
Just a lot of entities will come to me and work with me for a period of time. And this particular one came up in a seance and I wasn't expecting it. And it kind of to me was
when was the seance?
This was last year, the year before.
Okay.
Maybe it was the year before. It might
within
be
24 months.
Yeah, within 24 months. And so I had this vision and I went on this quest to figure out who this entity was. Started looking into the Goetia, came up with this guy, and in the Stella Daemonum, he is under Aurus, Auras. And but he's also he's either known as Aurus or Oribus. And there were some things in here that talked about him, he answers all questions truly and without deceit, is very faithful to the conjurer, allowing them to be tempted. But one of his and so he's definitely someone who's benefic, protective, honest, with great knowledge of lofty subjects such as cosmogony and theology. So there's a lot that suggests that he's a benefic spirit. But one thing that I found interesting about this particular spirit is that it says in his malefic presentation, he has the ability to make people sick with shame.
Oh.
Or if you're feeling sick with shame, it could be that you're afflicted with the spirit.
They just call that guilt.
Well, right.
Isn't that guilt?
Is it guilt? What do you think? Is sick with shame the same as guilt?
Sick with shame. Well, no.
And
I guess you're right though, because if you could be a victim and still feel those words.
Mm-hmm, right.
So
right.
Okay.
So there was things about this spirit that when I thought about my life or the things that I had been through, I was I could see how this spirit would represent challenges that I've been through, things that I've had to face. And it kind of struck me in trying to get to know this spirit and understand what its message was, that I kind of decided that demons in general were about showing you where you're wounded, showing you where you're traumatized, showing you where you need healing. They're like this sort of divine mirror. They're even if they are malevolent, they're they're coming into your world because of a trauma or some kind of wounding, and they're there to teach you about
and malevolent is just Latin for male is bad. That's all. Just bad.
Just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
So to make a segue into the movie The Deliverance, not to be confused with Deliverance.
Right.
In The Deliverance, it was interesting because one thing about the movie that I appreciated was the fact that it was, I'm not doing a exorcism, I'm delivering something that is good, wholesome, like holistic, like mind, body, and spirit, right? And what did you think about that movie? Because you saw the movie, I saw like different pieces and whatnot.
So I had mixed feelings about the movie. I know that I'm probably not the target audience of that movie. There were some parts of it that I found kind of disappointing. And in particular, like
has anybody seen The Deliverance?
Have you seen The Deliverance on Netflix? If you have, drop me a comment. So I actually had a client who was having a spirit problem and had asked me to perform, an exorcism on her, and talked about being delivered from that entity. So if you haven't seen the movie Deliverance, it's on Netflix. Because it's relatively new, I'm not going to spoil the ending for you guys.
Although it's pretty wild. Like we can't say it. We'll
demonetize it. I don't want to give any spoilers. But I had mixed feelings.
It's pretty much out of pocket, though.
Like I would have liked to have seen. I mean, I feel like for me to truly tell you what I think about this movie, I have to give away the ending. And if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, I don't want to give it away for you.
Like the first half of the movie feels very much like Precious. And it turns out that the director was a producer of Precious.
Oh, wow.
So if you've seen the movie Precious, or an adjacent movie like Fruitvale Station, very much like an experience from a person of color or people of color.
I mean, for that, I loved it. For that, I loved that it was kind of like getting a different cultural lens perspective of haunting. And so for that, I thought it was...
But it was kind of weird, though, because like the first part of the movie felt like almost a Hallmark movie. Not a Hallmark movie, but just like family issues. Like
where is this going?
Yeah, like struggles of a family that's doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden it hits some challenges because the father's in like Afghanistan. He's out in the sandbox fighting some war. Is he ever going to come back? And then they get evicted from their apartment or their house. They can't keep up with the rent. Like some challenges that are very real. Very, very real. And then you find out that Glenn Close, all the acting is phenomenal. Yeah. That's the one thing. Like at the end of the day, all the acting, like Monique, great acting. She plays like the Child Protective Service, like social worker. But on the other side of the coin, like the first half of the movie is like, is this a movie about what is it like to be a struggling middle class family of color, or and then all of a sudden like flips the switch to like the kid is climbing up the walls, like the Spider-Man.
Like the kid is possessed.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to see the female priest win. I was kind of sad she went out the way she did. At the end of the movie, though, it kind of comes down to like, empowering yourself, embodying that energy of the divine, right?
I disagree.
You think so?
I did. And this is where I felt, I'm like, so if you don't believe in Jesus, nothing's going to go your way. And if you believe in Jesus, it's going to, I felt more of a evangelical movie about faith. I was a little disappointed by that because it's like, I've met some very successful people who are not Christians.
Right.
And I know Christians who are very faithful Christians. They are not successful at all. Like they struggle day in and day out. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it doesn't work because you don't believe in Jesus. And that's not even scriptural, like from my faith tradition. So I really was like, I felt like, I don't think that's what the director was trying to convey, but that was the message that I picked up on. And I'm like, it doesn't really work that way because even from a Jewish person, like someone who reads like the Old Testament, the Tanakh, or the Christian who reads both testaments, right? It says very clearly that the rain hits the unjustified and the justified, meaning the unjustified are people that do not believe in God and Yahweh or Adonai or the promise or believes in like Jesus. The fact is, it still rains.
Right.
And in that context, it's both a blessing and a curse. And that is, a blessing doesn't matter. Anybody can get blessings. Anybody can get curses. So I was a little disappointed. I gotta be honest with you. I was like,
I was too. I really, there were some things I was hoping for that now I'm like, now that we're talking about it, I don't really, I want people to make up their own mind.
Yeah.
Oh, do we have a comment on YouTube here? Wandering Son of Hecate, the one that's based on the Philadelphia Demon House. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. I'm pretty sure that's it.
No, not in Philadelphia.
It was hit or miss, but some very accurate portrains.
So
I mean, you know,
the real story took place in Indiana.
Yeah,
it was in Indiana, Gary, Indiana, right? But the movie took place in like outside of Pittsburgh. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter where the movie takes place; it's fictional. But they took the example of this family, some of their struggles in Gary, Indiana. So, and then they called it Hell House, which apparently I look like the guy that built that house. I don't know.
I think Zach.
I wear
Baggins.
dark glasses.
Thank you. Just say thank you.
No, I can't tan. I'm
Zach
Irish.
Baggins
Can't tan.
from Ghost Adventures bought that house,
right?
Where this family lived that we're talking about in the movie Deliverance, and he did a little documentary about his time with that house.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if anybody on here watches Ghost Adventures, but when that series of shows first started, Zach didn't wear glasses. But then after, like later on in later seasons, he did, much like my friend Patrick here, which is why he got compared to this guy. And in this documentary that Zach Baggins made, he talks about his experience in the demon house and what happened that basically ruined his vision. That he needed glasses now after that encounter.
I don't even think he's a real person. I think
I'm gonna say that Aaron's like he's not. Like, I know. I wanted to do
like he was.
I wanted
in a hair salon where too much drama, and hair got together and became a person.
So Mr. Wandering Son of Hecate says that hilarious. Zach Baggins is a load of crap. You know, I'm not here to challenge.
I don't know anything about Zach Baggins.
You know what? You're welcome to your opinion. I'm not saying just because I'm talking about him doesn't mean I'm like a huge fan. Like I've watched Ghost Adventures a few times. I actually watched this little documentary. It's entertaining. Yeah. But going back to this family, like, you know, there are people then that experience these real problems.
Yeah.
But weren't you saying earlier that it like turned out they had like mold in the house and that's what was making everyone hallucinate?
Yeah. So the couple of things that are accurate in terms of the movie and compared to real life is the simple fact that the kids were hospitalized. And it turns out it was because they were exposed to toxic mold.
They had Gary Indianitis.
I don't know anything about Gary, Indiana, other than
as a kid, it was supposed to be the worst city.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you were saying the worst, it was Gary, Indiana.
I would have thought it would have been what's up in with the water? Where's that?
Oh, up in Detroit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, people need
for anyone
water.
that's just joining on TikTok
Oh,
tonight, we're talking about the tarot movie, the Deliverance movie. Talking a little bit about demons. I know how talking a little bit about
Night Gary, Indiana.
like the Gary, right? And so if you've seen the movie Deliverance, we talked about tarot a bunch earlier. If you've seen the movie Deliverance, leave us a comment below. We've been talking to someone over here on YouTube, the Wandering Son of Hecate.
By the way, Hecate.
Yes.
What is Hecate?
So Hecate is generally portrayed as a crone-like woman who is the keeper of the crossroads. And so she's like she's someone who will lead you through the mysteries, lead you through the dark. She's a guide. She's a teacher. She's a wisdom keeper. Sometimes she's portrayed as the triple goddess or the crone aspect. Oh, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. The crone aspect of the triple goddess, although there's like questionable whether or not that's a real association or a modern contrivance. But Hecate's been around for a very long time, and she's actually quite the popular goddess. Oh, that needs to be opened. That's going to be.
I believe in miracles, but I can't make a miracle happen.
That's the look. Do you need something for that? Do you need a corkscrew or something?
I guess. So I gotta be honest with you. I always thought Hecate was a guy.
No.
Yeah.
Hecate. There's many different ways to say her name. There's many different ways to acknowledge her and work with her. Why are we talking about her?
Because his name is
Wandering Son.
Because of Wandering Son of Hecate.
Yeah.
So that would lead me to understand that he's someone that follows Hecate.
Was Hecate a fertile enough woman to birth a son?
You know what? To be honest, let's ask Wandering Son of Hecate.
Yeah.
Does her mythology include children? Because I've never heard of that. Because she's always, what I've encountered, she's portrayed as a wise crone figure. So I don't know.
When you say a wise crone figure, Crohn's disease?
No, like an older, like a grandmother.
Oh,
babushka.
Yeah,
babushka, like a babushka hanging out on the porch, giving out candy while wearing a mask from Poland.
Right, like Alicia's grandmother.
We have
Mother stands at the door and abides on the thresholds. Yeah, so she's cool. Definitely a dedicated.
That sounds like a metal. That's
right. That's metal of you. That's very
metal
of you. Sounds like a dedicated for sure. Blessed be, my friend.
Blessed be.
So let's go back to the movie Deliverance. If you're just joining, hey, Jarrett. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the movie Deliverance right now, and kind of giving our thoughts on it. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how it was interesting that it was like, rather than talking about exorcism, it kind of put it in some slightly different terms with a slightly different understanding as far as being delivered from these negative forces.
And that was interesting too, because the protagonist so what happens is the family's trying to find some type of healing, and this woman comes into the story. She's like, I'm not doing I'm trying to think of the word, exorcisms. I'm doing a deliverance. Why? What did she say about being a deliverance?
So I mean, and I was a little unclear on that. I think this priest in this movie was evangelical. So I wasn't super clear on that. But then I also was like, maybe because I mentioned earlier, I had a client who we did a session to remove spirits from her, and she referred to it as a deliverance. So that could be like a more of like a BIPOC perspective, BIPOC Christian perspective on exorcism. I don't know. So I'm not trying to argue semantics about the wording, but
she wanted to heal.
But she wanted to heal. She wanted to help this family. She knew that they were having an issue. She knew the house had a history, and
which I have to go back to our original conversation almost around this time last year when I work with incarcerated individuals, and they were talking about a bookstore that's very well known in the area. I called, looked up on Facebook, and then I was having a conversation with Reverend Briana. And most of my experiences with people that are pagan heathen are really wrapped up in like accoutrements, like the visuals,
right? Like all the parts, all the widgets,
like the
there's got to be all the things on the altar to represent all the things,
right? And which is fine. I mean, I'm not here to judge. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't know. But the more I was talking with Reverend Briana, it was more like a priestly duty, like in terms of how do we provide healing, mind, body, and spirit. Okay, and I'm not talking about like, and I use this pejoratively, and I will admit to this, but like the live, love, laugh crowd. I don't have time for that, or I don't have time for that. But like in terms of what is it that I can do in my spiritual walk to provide healing? Okay,
yeah.
And you were telling me about how you were doing a seance, and they were like, and I mentioned this last time, like there was some noise, and they were like, well, is it because the window was open and the blinds were moving because of the wind, not because of anything otherworldly, just because of the wind.
Right.
And I'm like, this is exactly what we need.
Right. Well, and that kind of brings us back to the movie too, where it's like we have learned about the real life, where it's like this family was suffering from mold issues, which led to these hallucinations and sickness and etc. And this is something that like I really try to talk about a lot with my students when it comes to when you're developing your psychic abilities and you're starting to go out into the spirit world and trying to discern what's intuition, having knowledge of the checklist of things that it could be on the physical plane before you go jumping to the conclusion that it's supernatural. Because like this family, and it could, but also too, like thinking about it, like the socioeconomics, like maybe they didn't have the finances to be able to go and get their house checked for mold. And so it wouldn't even,
didn't occur to them
them at the time. Let's see, what have we got back here?
We have
let's see here. There are minor tales, but some say like daughter or something.
It goes back to the Hecate.
Oh, back to the Hecate.
Yeah.
So no specific
no nonsense mother.
Yeah. You have Hecate as a
well, that was what's really interesting. I appreciate the comment, and there was one thing I really liked about the movie was there was a strong focus on the role of female.
Yeah, because I really like that. I really liked that it was very female oriented
in all its messiness, because you had Glenn Close, who was not did not believe in anything, was agnostic or atheist, and then made some choices that were detrimental to her daughter upbringing, and then all of a sudden, and I think most of us here have experienced this before. All of a sudden, they find God, and then it's all like, it's like, I'm going to live this high moral lifestyle, and it's like, but wait a minute, 10 years ago, you were like, fill in the blank. And I appreciated that as a Christian person, because I actually see this a lot in prison, where people have done some pretty horrendous things.
Yeah, no kidding.
Then they come to their faith. It doesn't matter what faith it is, but they come to their faith, and all of a sudden it's like very black and white. And it's like, I'm glad you found your God, but it's like, no one's perfect.
Right.
Even them, but it's because they're dealing with their own guilt, etc. Fill in the blank and everything. But I appreciated that part of the movie, because in a Hallmark evangelical movie, the daughter would be like, oh yeah, that's great, my mom found Jesus, I'm gonna find Jesus. It was the exact opposite. In the movie, she was like, screw all that. Yeah, screw Jesus, screw you, screw the Bible. I'm not having anything to do with this. I did appreciate that part, because that's more realistic, actually.
Right.
That's human nature too. But well, you can talk more about the movie. I didn't like the ending. I thought the ending was kind of
I wasn't crazy about the ending either. And I love that there was strong female leads in this movie.
Yeah.
I love that it was talking about the struggle of the single mother, and
right.
how she kind of like.
And she was single but married.
Right.
Because the father just wasn't there. He was
right,
fighting
exactly. So the whole kind of the
well, keep talking. I'll
read the comments for me. So but yeah, I was kind of disappointed by the ending, but I can't quite pinpoint why. Like, maybe it's because of what happened with the priest. Maybe it's because it was like, I wasn't sure. Like, I mean, I liked the idea of the divine, like the woman, the mother of the family herself, like channeling the divine and finding the spiritual solution within herself to rebuke these energies and this demonic force. And through that, she came to find peace with herself and her children. Like, I kind of got down with that, but I don't know. I just wasn't quite. I don't know if it was just I wasn't quite buying it, or I wasn't quite into it, or I felt a little disappointed by the way it was portrayed, and it also, like, again, coming back to knowing what actually was going on with that family, where it's like they were able to trace it back to like this mold contamination, where it's like, I really wish it's like almost like, how deep does it go, people who lack the finances and the social standing, that they end up having to rely on spirituality rather than getting concrete services that they could have used to help them better their lives.
Right.
So there's a piece of that too in this movie.
Well, I'll share a professional experience I had many years ago. So I served in affordable housing communities, and affordable housing community, you could be 55 and older with a limited income. And I was both a administrator in terms of bringing people in, making sure services were conducted to meet the needs of the community, and also one-on-one counseling, etc. And a minister came in with, I would argue, very limited, clearly had like a high school education, maybe some college, but limited in terms of understanding medical, or institutional medical within an institutional setting, right? And he was sharing with me that he had to meet Mother Ruby, and he was telling me that he was very scared for Mother Ruby, because she was surrounded by people who, he used the word like babbling, or used words that didn't make sense, like a lot of pointing, and was trying to use words.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about this earlier.
So as I was hearing his story, I asked some very pointed questions, like, did someone have to like open a door for you? Was it like a locked door? Well, it turns out Mother Ruby had dementia. And this minister went into a locked unit for people with dementia. And it wasn't locked in terms of like a prison, locked for their protection. So they could walk around and wander and feel free, but not like walk out in the middle of the road or something along those lines. And he equated that with demon possession. And I wanted to help the person. Like my mouth dropped internally, but outwardly I was like, well, let's talk about dementia and what that looks like and what that means. And he knows about dementia. He's just never experienced it before.
Right. And
that's the difference.
Right. And then again, where it's like, it's too easy to ascribe like a spiritual significance to something when really
it was a medical
like
problem. Mold.
Medical, like the mold, dementia, like it has, there are scientifically like documented symptoms that.
Now, I would say, is there somebody maybe in that unit that could be demon possessed? I'm not going to say no.
It could be.
It's not out of the. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but 9 times out of 10 they have dementia.
Right. Well, and
cognitive.
And I think that demon or demonic spirit energy can exacerbate problems that are already within the body.
Wondering. Yeah, the endings. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Is he say? I can't read it from here. So if he said the
word corny. Yeah.
Oh. Like I can't see YouTube so read his comments out loud. Let's see. Anyway, but we are going on an hour and 45 minutes for this live. I had no idea it was going to go on this long.
I mean, are people still wanting to?
I mean, I'm ready to take a break, so we're going to end this. Yep. So, we got a couple people on TikTok, a couple people on YouTube. I'm not sure if anybody's still with it on Facebook. Let me see. Yeah. So basically tonight we've been talking about tarot, we've been talking about deliverance, talking about perspectives on spirits and demons from a pagan perspective, from a Christian perspective. And we are going to end it there unless anybody has any last comments or questions. I'm Reverend Briana Lee. I'm an interfaith minister, Wiccan priest, and Reiki master. I offer a wide range of services, including Reiki, mediumship, and spiritual counsel. So if you have any kind of questions, you're welcome to reach out to me at animapraxis.com.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Reiki, do you have to be in the same room to do Reiki?
I do not.
Or like healing? Like, I don't know anything about Reiki.
I do not. Like, I can, like, a lot of people who learn Reiki start by like putting their hands on people, but I don't have to do that. I can do Reiki remotely. I do in-person and remote sessions. You're not required to be in the same room as me. We can do a long distance session. I generally like to do it over Zoom if we're going to do that, just so that it's like we can connect and see each other. And so that I'm concentrating on you at the time of our appointment. But no, I don't have to touch people. So I give spiritual counsel on all kinds of things, such as hauntings, what to do about them, how to break strongholds over your house, over your family, how to break curses. I do custom ceremonies. You can also support my work on YouTube and TikTok with the video content that I've been creating. You can visit patreon.com/witchpriest, where you can learn all about all the other characters that I've made. I don't just do these podcasts. I do some skits.
Who's your favorite character, by the way? Because I've watched all.
Oh yeah, so my favorite Carol. Well, I mean Carol. I mean she's our favorite bungling conjurer, and there will be more Carol videos coming soon. If you haven't seen them, most of them are on YouTube at Rev Briana Lee.
So from to apply this in a Minnesota perspective, you're creating like woebegone of
magical magical characters.
And that whole thing with the Washington George Washington. And,
oh my gosh! Well, that was based on a real experience, and
wild.
so and I don't know that it was actually George making me sick, but some spirit in that lodge made me sick. It could have been
George. He's like,
it could have been George.
Why is a woman in here?
And then he made everybody sick. I mean, he made everybody sick, and that's the thing where it's just like everybody got sick. So, or at least several women got sick. So, oh my gosh! See, now that's the sign. It's time to wrap it up. Is there a wrap it up?
No, that's waking up.
Oh wait. Powering down. Maybe? Shutting off. If you have any questions
though.
Right. Oh.
Son Hecate has. The ending was corny, yes.
Yes, for Deliverance, it was definitely corny.
But he has a doctor of divinity. Who does?
It's been so long since he wrote that. I
think he might not even be watching. You see, he's not even watching anymore.
Okay.
It's out of context. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Happy spooky season.
May you get all the candy that you wish.
Blessed be you and have a good night.